they give you some rules up there at the top of 264 regarding the rules how you add and subtract fractions. And in simplest terms, you always have to have a common denominator. Okay, so just for review's sake, the top number is the numerator, the bottom number is the denominator. So that's what we're talking about when we say numerator and denominator. In example 1, you're already presented with common denominator scenarios. And example 1 has us first adding. Okay, so since they both have the same denominator, we can simply combine these two items because they're the same item type. If this was 3 over 16 plus 5c over 16, the answer would be 3 plus 5c over 16, because that one would be a number, one would be a variable. But since these are both the same item type, you end up with this. So Percy already established that we can reduce the 8 with the 16. 8 becomes a 1, 16 becomes a 2. Okay? Because we factored out the 8. Okay? We factored out the 8, and that gave us ability to reduce, and that's your final answer. Where you get sticky is in the subtraction. Okay, and I'm going to hopefully make this as clear as possible. So 5x plus 4 over 10 minus 3x minus 8 over 10. Same denominator, okay? And these items here, this item here is going to have this item removed from it. So to make it as clear as I can, 5x plus 4 minus this item, okay, is what's happening. And all of that will be over 10. Now, I put that in parentheses to make a huge glaring point. That 3x minus 8 is being acted upon by that subtraction symbol. So that means you have to think of this as if you are adding negative 3x and adding positive 8. Okay? Now you can treat this as if it's addition. So you end up with what? 2x plus 12 so far? If I factor out my 2, I have 2x plus 6 over 10, those items reduce to a 1 and a 5. X plus 6 over 5 is your answer. Okay? This piece right here is the piece that I see missed time and time again. And not because you don't know how to subtract, but because you forget to distribute the negative over the two pieces that were being subtracted from the original minuend. You guys okay with that? Example 2. A little more practice. 3 over x plus 4 added to 1 over x plus 4 equals 4 over x plus 4. You cannot reduce this 4 with this 4. Okay? This is a standalone factor. This is a standalone factor, so to speak. In order to reduce the x plus 4, it has to have another x plus 4 corresponding. Okay? That's your final answer there. B. Two over x minus 3 plus 7 over 3 minus x. I don't have a common denominator yet. That's a positive x, that's a negative x. That's a negative 3, that's a positive 3. But I can create one if I multiply the bottom by a -1. Okay? By doing that, I have created 2x minus 3 minus 7 -3 plus x. Okay, I just kept it in the same order so that you could see what I did from here to here. Okay? It flips what you're doing, and it flips the signs of the items in the denominator here. Multiplying this by a -1. Change the sign, change the signs of those things. So now you have -5 over, and I'm going to write it the right way because I don't like it the other way. Looks like that. You could also write it, because all this is saying is the quotient of this division is a negative result. Okay, either way is going to indicate the same thing. Here's where we get interesting. What's the lowest common denominator? And then perform all this work that you've done in example 1. So here we go. Simplify a over 4 minus 5 plus 12a over 18. Common denominator for 4 and 18. If you don't see it off the top of your head, what did you learn? We prime factor. And we look for the largest power of any factor that appears. Leads me to believe that the lowest common denominator of these items is 2 squared times 3 squared, which equals 4 times 9, 36. Y'all agreeing with me here? Okay. So if I change fourths to 36, I have to multiply both pieces by 9. Would you agree? To save space, I just moved down. So now my numerator is 9a, denominator is 36. You know you're correct if this reduces backwards and becomes that. The below, multiply both pieces by 2 to create 36, and I'm going to put it in parentheses so that I remember that the negative has to act on it. 10 plus 24a, 10 plus 24a. The negative has to get distributed over both pieces, and it'll look like this. 9a minus 10 minus 24a over 36, once you combine all of that and place it over 36. You should end up with negative 15a minus 10 over 36. If you leave it that way, that's fine. But when you check your work in the back of the book, it usually shows it in factored form. Notice if I pull out a -5, I can make that look positive. All right? And that accommodates this negative symbol. How are you guys feeling about example 3? You okay? All right. Super. Perimeter of the rectangle shown. Don't let this scare you. Perimeter is 2 lengths added to 2 widths. If you remember that, right? It's a rectangle. So the length is a minus 1 over 4. 2 of those added to the width, which is a over 12. 2 of those will give me my perimeter. You guys seeing how I'm kind of chewing on this? Okay. In order to multiply a whole number by a fraction, throw a 1 underneath.
Jodine to the office, please, or Percy to the office. Thank you.
Optional? So it's optional, either or. 2 a minus 1 over 4, just bear with me, and I'm going to make this clear, 2a over 12. They've already got it reduced, but I wanted you to see how we got to the reduced form. The 2 and the 4, that becomes a 1, that becomes a 2. The 2 and the 12, that becomes a 1, that becomes a 6. Okay, so right now I have a minus 1 over 2 and a over 6. You okay, Stan? You good? Common denominator of 2 and 6 is what? 6. All right. So this one's going to stay the same, a over 6. And we are going to add it to 2 times what gives us 6? 3. So we're going to multiply the top, 3a minus 3. Okay? The combination of 3a and a is 4a. The combination of negative 3 and nothing is negative 3. All of that over 6. The 4 and the 6 do not reduce. Again, this is a complete factor, and it cannot be reduced further because nothing can be divided out of both the 4 and the 3 to reduce it, thereby canceling with the 6. So no go on that. What if we do example 5? I think I can fit it. Example 5 is subtraction, 3 over 2x minus 1 over 8x squared. Can you guys see what the common denominator is going to be? 8x squared, good. So to convert this to 8x squared, we need to multiply this by 4x. So it becomes 12x minus. So far, so good? So this isn't too tricky because you only have one piece here. But if there were multiple pieces, like if it was 1 minus x or something like that, it would have to be a negative 1 and a positive x. But since it's only distributing over the 1, you're only distributing it over negative 1, your answer is going to be 12x minus 1 over 8x squared. The 12 and the 8 cannot reduce because this is a complete factor out of which nothing can be taken. Okay? The only thing I can pull out of this is a 1, and that does nothing for me. You guys okay? Last one. It's big, it's bad, it's ugly, but if you take your time and if you show your work, it'll be really helpful to me so I could see, well, you're going to have to show your work because it's odds, but in any case, if you show your work clearly, it really makes it easy for me to help find what you're doing wrong. Notice I just took that denominator for that first fraction and factored it. It's going to be easier to visualize your lowest common denominator by doing that, so I factored it. A squared minus 4, difference of squares, right? Okay, you guys see how I converted. All I did was change my denominators by factoring. All right, largest power of any factor present. A is in there once. A minus 2 only appears once. A plus 2 only appears once. Boy, everybody in the pool, right? So, I have to multiply this by A plus 2. And this piece, what does this have to get multiplied by? A. Okay, so now my denominator A plus 2, A minus 2A, A plus 2, A minus 2A has been achieved, but I do need to get all that stuff put together. FOIL this. A squared minus A minus 6. And distribute this over both pieces. So it's negative A squared Remember, you're multiplying it over both pieces. Negative a times a, negative a times 4, negative 4a. All of that goes over the original denominator. Okay, do you see how I had to do this? Negative a over both pieces. Negative a is negative a squared, negative a, negative 4, negative 4a. Positive. Whoops, negative, negative. See? See what I mean? One little slip. Okay, let's combine everything. The a squareds cancel each other out. Positive 4a and a negative a is 3a. So I'm done with that. 3a minus 6 over all this. Let's factor. 3a minus 2 over a plus 2, a minus 2. So now I combined everything, created this, factored it, and now I'm going to reduce. The a minus 2's reduce, leaving me with a final answer of 3 over a plus 2. It's big, it's bad, it's ugly, but it's possible. There's nothing that's going to make it not doable. Incidentally, we won't really encounter these real bad ones until Monday or Tuesday after we return. Most of what you're going to do is going to be pretty simple. Okay, examples 1 through 4. A little bit of 5, actually. Examples 1 through 5, but this is more for Tuesday. Okay, so if you want to camp on examples 1 through 5, you'll be set